everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Huck, and we're going to talk about my favorite books of 2017. I will only be doing my top 3 because although there were so many books that I read that I enjoyed and loved in 2017, there were only these 3 series that I would really categorize as favorites, that these, catapulted themselves into the top favorite books category in my mind for the year. But before we get into my top favorite books, I just want to talk a little bit about my year of reading in 2017 in review. So in 2017, one of my reading goals was to read 30 books in that year, and I definitely surpassed that goal. I surpassed that goal a long time ago, pretty early in 2017, and I ended up reading a total of 74 books that year, and that is a lot for me. I was not expecting to get that far. After I reached my goal of 30, I kind of went like, oh, maybe I can get to like 50, and then maybe I can get to 65, and then after I got to 65, I was just like, let's just see how far I can get. Just keep reading books, see what happens. Of those 74, 16 books were rereads, which I was very pleased with. I have been trying to reread more books, so I'm glad that I got to 16. I believe that's about like 20% of my reading this year was rereads, so I think that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. I also read 4 books of poetry in 2017. I read 6 novellas, which was a pretty new thing to me. I haven't read a lot of novellas before now, so that was exciting. And I really love novellas, so I want to read more. In 2017, I started 18 series, and I finished 6 series. I read 10 standalones, 5 collections of short stories or anthologies, and 9 books that were over 500 pages. Now that we've heard a little bit about what my reading was like in 2017 and a little bit of my statistics, I'm going to talk about my top 3 series last year. Starting out, I'm going to start with a series of novellas that is not finished yet, but I am highly anticipating the 3rd book, which is the Binti series by Nnedi Okorafor. So this series, the first one is Binti, the second is Binti Home, and very soon the 3rd book and final in this series, Binti the Night Masquerade, is coming out, which I'm very excited about. This series follows Binti, who is in a futuristic Namibia, and she is accepted into a university on a different planet because she is an incredible mathematician. So she has to decide, will she leave her family and her culture, and will she travel to this new world? Ultimately, she decides to make the trip, and along the way, craziness ensues, and she learns a lot about herself, her identity, and a lot about other people, other aliens, and the universe as a whole. So this series I loved so much. Binti, the first book, was very enjoyable and I thought it was really interesting, but Binti Home is the book that really catapulted this series into a favorites category. In the second book, Binti goes back to Earth to visit her family after having lived in this university for some time. And she struggles with a lot of ideas of identity and the assumptions that people make about other people because she has lived in this other university, so when she is in the university, she is seen as kind of an outsider because she really holds on to her cultural identity from her home. But when she goes back home, she's seen as someone, she's changed so much, and that she's like those university kids, and her family have a hard time accepting her as she is now that she has changed. So she has this kind of dual identity, and it's very interesting. Also in this, she goes through a process of really actively questioning her biases and her assumptions that she has about other people and other cultures. It's really interesting to read and really interesting to watch her really actively grapple with those ideas. So I loved this series and I can't wait to finish it this year. Also, I'm not sure if I said that these aren't in any particular order. I love all of these equally for very different reasons. My next series is The Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater. The first book is The Raven Boys, the second is The Dream Thieves, third is Blue Lily Lily Blue, and the 4th book is The Raven King. These books, I read all of them this year and I love them so much. These books really connected with me on a very personal level. So these books follow a group of friends who there are arguably main characters, which would be probably Blue, maybe Gansey, but really the whole friend group of Blue, Gansey, Adam and Ronan, and Noah, I always forget about him, and Noah, I'm not gonna leave him out, are the main characters of these stories, and it's all about their friendships. The plot line that's discussed on the back of the books is that Blue essentially has a prophecy that if she kisses her true love, he will die. And at the beginning of the book, she sees the spirit of a boy who she believes is the one that will be her true love. She later meets him in person, and her story begins of her meeting this group of friends, these boys who are the Raven Boys, and becoming friends with them and joining their quest. So the other plot line that's going on in this series is the quest to find a dead Welsh king. The character Gansey is obsessed with finding this dead Welsh king who they believe has been buried in Virginia. The legend goes that if you find the king, he's not really dead, he's actually sleeping. And if you can wake him, he will grant you a wish, kind of like a genie. And so Blue is drawn into this journey and this quest to find this king. And so even though we have these two storylines going on between this prophecy and this quest, the real storyline in this series are the friendships and the characters and how much they all love each other, and they're just amazing books. One of the things that really mattered to me while reading these is that I was able to identify with at least some aspect of every character in this series. I personally am not someone who easily or commonly identifies with characters. I can enjoy characters and I love characters, but I don't often see myself in characters or identify with them. And while there was no single character in this series that I fully identified with, I was able to see a piece of myself in every single one of these characters, and I loved that so much. I loved the way that Maggie Stiefvater writes. It's so atmospheric and draws you in. All of the, metaphors that she uses to describe feelings is one of my favorite things about her writing, because she'll use these kind of seemingly obscure random metaphors, but it really enables you to go yes, I know that feeling. I know what that feels like, so you can experience the story and the emotions along with the characters, and you can feel it with them. So I love these books so much. I know that this is a series that I will be coming back to, and I probably will be reading periodically, if not every year, every couple of years, because I really will love to revisit this experience, this world, and these characters. And last up, my third favorite series of the year is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. So this is a duology. The first book is Six of Crows, and the second book is Crooked Kingdom. This follows a ragtag group of characters, or a kind of misfit ensemble cast. They're all very different with very different skills and backgrounds, but they're all so lovable. Each character is so distinct and so lovable unto themselves. This is a fantasy heist story. There is something that they have to steal, and so they are bringing together a band of characters with all different skills to pull off this heist so that they can, in some cases, get their money, in some set themselves free, in others do the right thing. There are many motivations that go into this, which is one of the wonderful things about this, the diversity of the characters, their backgrounds, their motivations, and what they are like as human beings. So with this series, I really enjoyed Six of Crows, but again, it was Crooked Kingdom that really catapulted this series into a favorites category with me. So in Six of Crows, I enjoyed the characters. I was not a big fan of any of the ships in it, but it was a really fun story to read, so I wanted to continue and read Crooked Kingdom. And in Crooked Kingdom, we get to know the characters so much better. There are characters that I didn't pay attention to at all in the first book, like Matthias. Not a fan of Matthias in the first book. I thought he was very boring. In Six of Crows, or in Crooked Kingdom, Matthias was like one of my favorite characters. He's so funny. He has this really like dry or like deadpan kind of humor that just like speaks to my soul, and I loved it. One of my, probably my top favorite scene in the entire book was a line from Matthias, and I just like died laughing. The thing that I loved so much about Crooked Kingdom is that it really kept me on my toes. Personally, I do find a lot of stories and a lot of books very predictable. You can really tell what's going to happen, and they can still be really enjoyable books. But when a book can really surprise me, keep me on my toes, keep me guessing, I'm really impressed and I really love it. And Crooked Kingdom definitely did that. I did not see, like, I never knew what was going on. I always was like, what is about to happen? I don't understand, because they keep you in the dark on so many things. And Kaz is always plotting like so many steps ahead that I can't keep up. And I loved that about it, that it really kept me guessing. It really kept me like on the edge of my seat, and I couldn't figure out what was going to happen next. This book also like really, I was like so invested in it. When I finished this book, I was useless for like 2 hours afterwards. I literally just sat there staring at a wall being like, what is my life now? Like, what do I do now that I have finished this book? And about after that 2 hours, I started rereading the book immediately. I was just skimming at that time, but still, like, I've never done that before. I've never finished a book and then immediately reread it. So one of the reasons I wanted to reread it was also because I wanted to annotate it, which is another thing I don't normally do. I'm not a big, like, I do write in books sometimes, but I'm not a big annotator. But I really had a lot of like emotions and reactions to a lot of things that were happening in this book, and I just had to write them down. This book really sold me on the ships. On all 3 of the main ships, I was sold, I was invested, I was into it. This is the one that really got me into everything. So I loved Crooked Kingdom, but Crooked Kingdom cannot stand on its own. It has to go with Six of Crows, which is why I wanted to talk about it as a full duology. So that is all for my year in review and my 2017 favorite series. Let me know down in the comments below what your favorite book was this year, or a few of your favorites. I always have a really hard time narrowing it down to like one favorite, so just tell me about books that you loved. I would love to hear about it, and maybe I'll learn about some new books. So thank you all for watching, and until next time, bye!